And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. And today, driven by our friends at Freeway Flyers USA, freewayflyersusa.com. We've told you this before. If you're here in the Low Country, the Tri-County area, and you need a new set of tires or a tire, and you call your local tire company, not to bash anybody, not to get personal or anything like that, but if they tell you, yeah, we'll get you right in, always ask them, okay, but when are you going to get me out? Because nobody ever has an answer to that. Freeway Flyers USA has that answer, because they're going to come to your house or your work, and they're going to say, this is about how long it's going to take us to do it, because you're the only one that we're working on right here, right now. freewayflyersusa.com. Even if you don't need new tires now, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, most importantly, put that in your phone. Go to freewayflyersusa.com, put their number in there, call Allie. She'll get you set up, whatever tires you're looking for, BFGs, you're looking for some of those little tiny little ones that keep you close to the road or whatever it is. I'm more of a BFG guy. freewayflyersusa.com. Share Healthcare chat lines are open. Jump in and be a part of our programming there. And you can always follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. Coming up at, 12:35 or so, Mike Uva with Gamecock Central is going to pop in. I haven't talked to Mike in a little while, so we're excited to get him back in here today and get into some Carolina football and basketball, and we'll see how much we can dabble in baseball. Gamecocks practiced this morning. They're probably about to wrap it up now, and then they will be back on the diamond on Thursday night, starting a 3-game series with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Good news, everybody. Mm-hmm. Thursday and Saturday, both games are on the SEC network. I know you've shared this as well, Darren. We adore Derek Scott and we adore Tommy Moody, and they do just an amazing job. But if you can multitask, got really good news here, because Mike Morgan will be on the call both those games on the SEC network.
How about that?
And props to guys like Mike Morgan, who have to deal with the BS of ESPN, where they make them call these games from their house instead of doing the right thing and having him just, go to Columbia. It's a quick drive from Atlanta, sit up in the booth, call a couple games, go home. But no, they want to save a penny here and there, and that's bogus crap, if you ask me. So hats off to Mike Morgan and some of these other guys that have to call it from the house and act like they're right in the thick of it, because that's BS, Darren. As you well know, you've done a lot of play-by-play, and it ain't easy to do it from your house and feel totally engaged, but the good ones figure out a way to make it fun, and Mike Morgan is one of the best at doing that.
Yeah, it's certainly not ideal. It's happening at networks all around the world. Yeah, it's not just ESPN. That's the way it's going. It was heading that way. The pandemic sped it all up and made it a lot easier because the technology got better. And it's certainly not ideal. The fans suffer, the broadcasters suffer, everyone suffers. Yeah. But that is the way of now and the way of the future. I mean, you'll see more of people on site, but you're never going back to the way it was. It's just way too easy right now for networks to allow to have the productions done the way they're being done. They can use their contract guys more often, and they're saving a lot more money than it actually looks like, as much as we all hate it. And it's not why anyone got into the profession, to do games off a television monitor in your home office. You're going to see more of it. That's just a reality.
They need to strike. Isn't that what everybody does these days? They just strike. Let's just strike. Mike, lead the charge. Get Tom Hart and gather the gang and go out and picket in front of the ESPN offices up there in Bristol or wherever the hell they are now. But so Mike will be here in just a little bit, and then we've got Mike Uva,
the other one.
I was thinking Mike Morgan. Mike Uva will be here, and then Keith Allsep will jump in today sometime between 1:20 and 1:30, and we certainly have plenty to get to with him. And the NFL draft is only a couple of days away, so interested to see what happens there. Darren and I touched on some of that yesterday. It's a tough draft to talk about just because of, like you mentioned, Darren, the star power. It's not sexy, I think was the word that you had used yesterday. And personally speaking, sexiness in the NFL draft to me, unless you just have some just unbelievable can't miss superstar at one of these other positions. I always looked at the depth of the quarterback class, the wide receiver class, and the defensive end class. That's just me personally speaking. And when those are really good, I always feel like the draft is a lot of fun, but they're not that deep this year. But I mean, the draft won't be fun. They're doing it in the middle of the water. That'll be interesting. Hope everybody can swim, and hopefully nobody falls off the stage.
At least the ends are deep, right? I mean, you're going to see a couple of defensive ends, not the stage in the water. I meant the defensive ends. But yes, hopefully the water is deep as well if anybody falls in. But at least that position is deep, right? That might be the deepest of the positions that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of guys, both on the inside and specifically the outside of the line that are going to be some of the highest guys taken in the draft. And I always view the draft as a guy who grew up predominantly favoring the NFL over college football. I mean, I didn't really get into college football until actually going to college, but even then and still now, I view the draft a lot like I view recruiting. Kind of, who'd we get? All right, cool. Let's see how that works out. And who'd they get? Oh, interesting. All right, let's see if that works out. And then, you kind of wait and see how that works out. There are a lot of mocks out there, but who knows? It sounds like there's some momentum right now for Desmond Ridder, maybe a little bit ahead of Kenny Pickett. So maybe he slides into the first round, but there's not a ton that really intrigues me about Thursday.
Nah. Yeah, me neither. I mean, I'm excited to see it. I'm definitely excited to see it. I'm more interested. Well, as for the in-state guys, I'm really anxious to see if Andrew Booth gets his name called in the first round or not from Clemson. He, at this point in time, is the only in-state guy that seemingly has a chance. Could be a surprise maybe somewhere, but more than likely not. And then Friday seems to be more of the day where we will start to see some of the names come off the board that have Palmetto State ties, like JJ Enigbari and others. So definitely excited to see that. I see Craig's comment there in the Share Healthcare chat lines. Georgia could have 5 taken in the first round. Yeah, it's crazy. And I think if oh gosh, his name's escaped me already. The
Walker?
Yeah, if Trayvon Walker goes number 1, Georgia had 4 All-Americans on defense, and he wasn't one of them. So if Trayvon Walker goes number 1 overall, I think that's a pretty good indicator of why Georgia won the national championship. They had 5 first rounders, and the guy that's the top pick in the draft wasn't even an All-American. Yeah, that kind of gives you a hint that they were all right on that side of the football. And I think it also tells you, Darren, that in addition to Kirby Smart being the head coach and Dan Lanning now being the head coach at Georgia, at Oregon, but formerly the DC there, it also tells you that Will Muschamp still has a little bit to do with defense. When they hired him as the special teams coordinator, I thought, we talked about this.
Yeah.
Is anybody in their right mind really think that the only thing he's doing inside those walls is coaching the special teams? Because you're missing the mark if that's what you think. This cat is involved in the defense, and obviously he very much so was.
You don't hire a guy with his credentials and say, hey, you push those files over there for me, all throughout the year. I mean, I know here's your list of everything you've done. Go sit over there. That's not the way it happens. So you can give me any title or him any title you want, but we talked about it all year long that he was more influential in that defense than maybe some folks wanted to give him credit for. And then we ramped up that talk as the playoffs were approaching and then threw them. And Yeah. He's very much influential. He very much had a hand on that defense, and there was a reason why he wasn't the sole reason. They had dudes there, and it was him and other people, but he contributed to the team of people that made that defense punishing. They hurt you last year.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, which by the way, I love, because we all know that Coach Muschamp's the defensive coordinator now at Georgia. Right? Everybody does know that, right? He's actually listed as the co-DC. Glenn Schumann is the co-DC as well. He's also the inside linebackers coach. Anybody think Glenn Schumann is calling the defense on game day? Do you want the answer? Because it's a 2-letter word.
It's about dancing around the rules, right? So he's giving the co-DC, great. That means you can get a little bit more money. And last year, well, I can't give you this title, so you're going to have that title, but here's going to be your job. It's all just inside politics and just making sure you can get what you need.
Yeah, and also, for Schumann, he's a co-DC. I mean, like, that's a resume builder for him. Right. Nobody has to know the inside workings of what he's doing in the booth on Saturdays, whether he's calling it or not. We all know Muschamp's calling it,
right?
But he's the co-DC, so that's good for his career. That's a lot of what you kind of do now. It's funny that we kind of started the show up this way, because I just continue to think that it is flat out amazing where all of the former coaches are under Muschamp. I mean, Georgia and Alabama has like all of them, and this group couldn't win at South Carolina. Like, it's just still so hard to understand that. I mean, Bobo as the quote unquote quality control guy for offense, but Todd Monken's calling the plays, and I don't know how Kirby Smart, regardless of the names and what anybody feels about him personally, you have so many guys who have been head coaches, who have been around a long time as coordinators, and just have built programs, been influential in building programs and things of that nature. And they're all on staff there, just like they are at Alabama. And obviously there's got to be something in Kirby Smart's arsenal as the leader of the program that he inherited from Coach Saban, because Nick's been doing this a long time, and that you can bring in all these guys who have egos and ideas and they feel self-value, and you can manage that. There's not a lot of people that can do that. There's only certain people who actually have that in the tank to be able to manage it like that. And, so far so good for a guy like Kirby Smart.
And it brings in the question of one of the most intriguing teams this year, and that'll be Clemson. And because that's the polar opposite of how they're doing things. And neither one is right. It obviously works for Saban. It's working for Kirby Smart at Georgia. That's not to say teams loaded with guys who are associated with the school or promoted from within, that can't work. But it is part of the dynamic here. It'll be all about the quarterback position kind of leading into fall practice. But that other dynamic is, can Dabo Swinney make this work? Is it going to work the way he's trying to keep the culture of his program inside those walls and grow from within? Can he do that as effectively as guys like Saban and Smart? Saban more to that degree, but what Smart's also doing. Can he do it? That's the question. That's his goal. That's obviously his goal. That's his belief that he can, Dabo's, but can he?
No doubt. Yeah. TBS. To be seen, at least again here in 2022. Real quick, Darren, on the college baseball schedule tonight, the Citadel is at Winthrop, and Coastal Carolina is at the College of Charleston. Presbyterian will travel to Clemson. So that's what it looks like there on the college baseball scene. We started in football, and I've got something interesting for you because I was reading on it this morning, and it got me really thinking about the group of five and what this year could possibly look like. Everybody generally circles their questions around the Power Five, and if there is a G5 team that can make the playoff, which just happened. Cincinnati got in. If I asked you in 2021 what G5 league was the best in the country, what would you? This isn't a trick question or anything like that. What G5 league do you think was the best in 2021?
Oh, the Mountain West has a case for it, but I mean, I would have to go back and think about it. The fact that Cincinnati got in, that says a lot for Cincinnati, and there was strength through it, right? The American had Houston in there, had Tulsa in there. Central Florida was so
yeah, well, they won 9.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the American has a good case for it, and the fact that Cincinnati was in, that means something for him.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look at the AAC this season, I mean, I don't anticipate Cincinnati going anywhere. Do they make the playoff again? I'm not going to predict that. I don't think they will.
They won't. I'll go ahead and predict that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd say that too. I don't think they will. Houston was really good last year at 12-2. You mentioned Central Florida, and it's hard to believe that they're going to get any worse with the transfers they've taken in, and with Gus Malzahn down there building a nice program. I'll tell you the program that I will have my eyes closest on in the league as to what type of jump will they make is East Carolina. Like, they have once again taken transfers in just like they did last year. It took them a while to kick it into gear, and then Mike Houston got him going, and they ended up finishing, I think, 7-5, I believe is what it was, Darren. Didn't their bowl game get canceled? And that would happen? Weren't they 7-5, and then they had a bowl game that didn't get played or something like that, if I remember correctly?
It rings a bell. I'm gonna double check there for you. But
I'm just
we're inconsistent. I mean, when I think of them, yeah, Military Bowl canceled due to COVID.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
I would like to see them take another step, but I thought I would have seen more of it last year. So my question is, can Houston get it going to the point that I thought I'd see the momentum last year? Can that momentum be built this year?
Yeah, you said can Houston. You're talking about Mike Houston. Right?
Yes.
So, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I mean, there's if you take a peek at their schedule, they've got they host NC State. They're also at BYU and they're at Cincinnati. So it's hard to imagine them winning any of those games, but I do think that they'll still continue to get better. My point is this. The AAC has been on the radar. Memphis has good years. SMU, I think, won 8 games last year. You mentioned Tulsa already. You never know what you're going to get out of Navy. And then Tulane, South Florida, and Temple, they got a ways to go, right? I'm going to make a prediction, an early, late April prediction for you. You ready for this?
Go for it.
And I'm not a big, you know me, I'm not a big hot take guy. Let me say something to spread across the internet. I think that the best G5 league this year will be the Sun Belt. Because I think I'm not discounting the AAC. I think that the best, probably top 2 teams will come out of the AAC more than likely. But as far from a depth standpoint, like how good is the league? Are they beating each other up, or are there a bunch of teams that have a chance to win 8 or more games? I got a sneaky feeling about the Sun Belt. App State, Coastal Carolina, really like where Troy's going. Louisiana's going to be the ticket now because Billy Napier's gone to Florida. All right, so can they sustain what he built? I don't have that answer.
And Georgia Southern. Clay Helton is now over at Georgia Southern. Can Georgia Southern get back to being Georgia Southern? And what's Marshall? They added a ton to them. They added a ton to them and were widely and correctly praised for what they added to them. The question, are they going to live up to those expectations immediately? I mean, I'm now used to assuming that App State is going to be there in the end. Like you said, I don't know what Louisiana is going to do without Billy Napier. I have no idea what to expect from a Clay Helton turnaround at Georgia Southern. And you got to believe that Coastal's about a 9-10 win team, right? That has to be what you believe heading into the year. But the AAC still has more money and it still has more strength. They still have more of the big boys than the Sun Belt. So I don't know if the Sun Belt has caught up to them quite yet, but they can.
I think they can, and I think it'll be quick. You mentioned Marshall. I like where they're heading. Southern Miss is in the Sun Belt now, folks. And Sean Elliott's built a nice little program over at Georgia State. That's a weird game for South Carolina. Carolina should not lose the game, but it's a strange opening matchup. And I think you're going to find out in that ball game that Georgia State's pretty good. James Madison, right? I mean, we know what they've done. I like this league from a depth standpoint better than the AAC. I like the top of the AAC right now. You can't look at Cincinnati and say, well, they're not any good, or you can't look at Houston, or you can't. I get that, but the bottom of the league and the bottom of the Sun Belt isn't very good either.
Mm-mm.
But the bottom of the AAC, I would have more questions about, as I'd say mid to bottom, as opposed to I think where the Sun Belt is. I think this year the Sun Belt, Fun Belt, the reference, like it's going to be really fun, and I think it's going to be a really good league. I think you got a lot of teams that are staring 7-5, 8-4, and plus in the face, man.
So that's why I think the AAC is going to be a little bit better of a league, because I agree. I think there's a lot of 7-5, 8-4 type in the Sun Belt, and I think it will be a ton of fun. I think they're going to be going at it with each other. Yeah, I agree with that. But when you're talking with the smaller conferences, it's kind of different to compare the smaller conferences against each other than the bigger ones, because the Power 5 conferences are inherently deeper with a much bigger talent pool, even when you get down to the bottom. When I'm looking at the group of fives, it does the mid to upper tier of those leagues, it does matter to me, and to weigh the conferences against each other, because if the mid to upper is a significant advantage in one group of five, that in my eyes gives me that league the advantage over the other group of five league that might be a little bit deeper but doesn't have the strength, because in the long run, that's where those leagues can separate themselves. You need some of those power players in the mid to top tier.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, and I think to be more specific about the Sun Belt, if you look at the East, they have two East-West divisions, and when you look around college football at group of five leagues, like for instance, what we just saw in basketball in the Mountain West, very heavy shifted outside of San Diego State. The mountain side of the Mountain West Conference was amazing, with Boise and Colorado State and Wyoming and things like that. Which, by the way, that division was pretty good in football too. The East Division in the Sun Belt, Darren, is really, really neat. Might be the best G5 division out there from a competitive standpoint because of who's in it now. You got App State and you got Coastal. It's hard to imagine that either one of them isn't going to win the division at this point in time. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned Clay Helton and Georgia Southern. I like the fit. I really do. And I think that they're working their way back to being really good, and they're going to be. Georgia Southern has always been the team, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here, but if they're not really good, they're the team that's going to probably ruin your year. You know what I mean? Like
when they were in their Southern Conference days and their 1AA FCS days, that was always true. Always with the caveat of when they were running the football, because when they weren't, that they got away from their identity completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. You're going. That's a football crazy town. That's an SEC environment in a much smaller type setting, because what else are you going to do in Statesboro but love Georgia Southern? Because there's nothing else to do in Statesboro, so they all love Georgia Southern. But can when Clay Helton was hired there, I still have a question. Does Clay Helton fit? You like to fit. I have no idea if Clay Helton fits there, and if he can have success there doing things his way. We just Sandlapper Spike in Twitter points out that the Mountain West could be better than both next year.
Could. And
we pointed that out, that the Mountain West was last year inching up that way as well. I love the Mountain West. I love them in hoops. I love them in football. And they could be. They will be in the conversation for top G5 league next year.
Yeah, the top of the Mountain West was really good. You had Utah State. I think Air Force won 10 games last year, if I remember correctly. San Diego State was a top 25 team, right? Who am I missing? So Fresno State. Fresno State was good last year.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done enough research as to what they're going to look like this year. I continue to hope that my adopted Wyoming Cowboys will just beat them all. But until they do that, it probably isn't going to happen.
Utah State was good last year too.
Yeah, Utah. Yeah, I think I thought I at least mentioned them. But they could be. I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see. The more that I've kind of looked at I was reading an article about the Sun Belt, and I didn't even realize everybody who's jammed into the Eastern Division. You already mentioned Marshall, and I don't think James Madison is eligible for the postseason yet because of the transition or whatever. But they're over there, and I like what Sean Elliott's done in Georgia State. I don't. it's hard to fathom that Georgia State shouldn't be good. They're in Atlanta. Like, you're not recruiting against Georgia and Georgia Tech and every other, every other Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes into Atlanta to recruit, Alabama and Auburn and Clemson and Carolina and all these other programs. Like, I get that. But there's so many players in Atlanta. Like, you don't really have to go anywhere. Like, they're there. And I think that the emergence of Georgia State, which they've only been playing football, Darren, for like 10 years, has had something to do with what has happened to Georgia Southern. As consistent as they used to be, there have been more ups and downs in their program. And a lot of those kids that used to just head on down to Statesboro aren't doing that anymore. They're staying right there and playing in the old Turner Field.
That's a good point. I wonder what Georgia Southern folks would say to that, because that makes a lot of sense to me, that the inconsistency that you've seen over the last couple of years could directly be tied, not maybe completely attributed to, but directly tied in part to a rise in Georgia State, because the talent pool, the area that they want to keep home, if you will, it's the same exact area.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It's just a different level of player. I mean, that's all, and you're going to dabble in the transfer portal. I know Sean's done that. He's lost guys. I mean, Jordan Strawn's starting at South Carolina. I bet they'd like to have him, and things like that. But yeah, it's really interesting. I never, and probably until last year, had done enough listening to Clay Helton, like to just hearing him speak. And then the more that I listened to some of his interviews, because I saw one on ESPN, and then I went to YouTube and pulled up some other interviews that he had just done, just wherever, post game, pregame, whatever it was, and it clicked real quick to me with why he probably got hired at Southern Cal, because he's a really likable person. Very, very cool, calm and collected. And I just think that mantra will fit in Statesboro. The question is going to be, can he get the players, and where's he getting the players from? Are they transfer kids? Are you able to recruit the highest quality kid that you can out of high school? But he's used to recruiting at Southern Cal. So I would like to think that would translate decently well, especially, I don't know anything about his staff, but if his staff understands the area, like, I think that he's got a chance to be successful there. Does that mean winning 11 or 12 games a year? I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, not being 3-9. Yeah. I mean, this team, they should never, Georgia Southern should be 3-9 ever, like ever.
Just ask their faithful. They'll tell you they feel the way about their football program and their baseball, but they feel the way about their football program the same way that you express your, I guess, frustrations, maybe that's the right word, for the baseball program at South Carolina right now. I mean, that's how Georgia Southern views their football program. I believe they have more 1AA national titles than anybody else. I'm pretty sure they still hold that. So that's their barometer, is not just, hey, let's go win 8-9 games. They believe they should be competing for championships. What that means at their level, you can easily debate that, but that's absolutely what Georgia Southern believes. It's just strange for me. Helton has a ton of ties in the South. It's just strange for me to see someone moving from LA to Statesboro. You can't find two places that are more different than that. You can't. That part to me is very strange.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, that's spot on. I mean, that's like going to the moon versus going to the sun.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, you're talking about two totally different experiences.
Everything.
Right?
I mean, the people, the city, the money, everything is a polar opposite.
You think Will Muschamp will ever get a job like that? I don't see him being a major Power 5 coach again, but do you think Will Muschamp would ever be like a G5 type coach again?
I wonder what he wants, because if he can stay with Kirby Smart and latch on to him, and maybe Georgia builds into a perennial power, maybe he's happy saying, I've done the head coach thing. I'll ride this coattail as long as I want. I'll coach defense. I don't know what he wants.
I don't either. I would, if I had to guess, and I've kind of heard this through the grapevine, but I wouldn't put my name to it just because I don't know how truly truthful it is. But I mean, I've heard that there have been multiple pokes at Will Muschamp as gauging, is this something you maybe think about doing? No, I'm good. I mean, he didn't need money. It's not about money. It's just about whether he wants to coach again and at what level. But the one thing I've always known about Coach Muschamp is he loves that white collar stuff. You know, I mean, he Texas, Georgia, LSU, Florida, that's white collar football. You know, Gamecocks, that's blue collar football. These other guys, you know, they're out there getting the 5 stars in their sleep. You know, he's used to that level of it. So you just wonder again if he had to go to somewhere that's kind of more blue collar, how it would work. I don't know. It's just we had talked about it. It was just,
and if he's rebuffed some overtures already, then maybe he's happy. You know, he's out of the limelight, even as a coordinator. I mean, you can be directly in the spotlight, but you're out of it. It doesn't fall directly on you. Yet you're making tons of money. You're having tons of success. You're living in a pretty cool town. Maybe he's happy.
Yeah, maybe. Probably pretty happy with a national championship. They just did that.
I would think.
I would say so. It's 12:31 on this Tuesday afternoon. It's beautiful, but we are going to get some rain tonight. Good thing, too. I've got 4 new trees planted in my backyard, and they keep looking at me like, a hose, anything? Could you pass it? Hey, man, there's rain coming on Tuesday night. Just hang in there. You'll be fine. So certainly looking forward to getting that. Also looking forward to getting to Keith Allsep in the second hour. But up next, it's our good buddy from Gamecock Central, Mike Yuva. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck, with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone. Again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily, family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, rib night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
welcome. You are welcome, my friend. Patrick Davis. Mike should be in any moment.
Oh, I'm sure.
Everybody just he's I'm not going to say who it was, but he's wrapping up an interview. I'll let him, if he wants to say who it is publicly, that's fine. But he's wrapping up an interview, and then he'll be in here in just a second. Little side note from sports, though. I just saw this, and I'm so happy that they're doing this. The Isle of Palms down here in our neck of the woods is set to tonight at their town council meeting honor probably my favorite establishment in the history of the world.
Yep.
The Windjammer, for being in business for 50 years. Let me just tell all of you, Hope and Craig and anybody else out there that is watching or listening to our program, if you're ever in the Low Country and you've never been to the Windjammer, you have got to go to the Windjammer. Period. The end. Doesn't matter when you go. If you can go see a show, that's great. Darren, I used to work there. Darren's wife used to work there years ago. We still know those people incredibly well, and so happy that I do. But even if you have to go in the afternoon and you're just hanging out by the beach or whatever, just walk in and just look at the walls. Just look at the walls, man. Look at the Darius Rucker stuff and the Zach Brown stuff and everything else you could dream of that's signed on the wall. It is the neatest place on planet Earth. So if you're around, go. But hats off to Malcolm and Bobby and all those guys at the Windjammer, and we love you. They're the best.
It's an awesome place. We actually got an invite. I don't know exactly what it is, and we're not going because we don't leave the house once it basically becomes nighttime. But there's some gathering to celebrate it or something like that. We got some invitation like that last night, but we're not going. But we will be back out there to celebrate because look, even if it's not for a show and you just want to look at the walls, it's a really good spot to just go to the beach because you can get a beer at the bar and walk right down to the beach, and there's a bathroom right there too. I mean, it's a good spot to go if you've never been, and there's probably going to be music at least on something. It's a good spot. It's a great. I mean, it's an institution. So,
well, you can't go to the Windjammer without getting a Jammer burger. Like, you got to get one of their cheeseburgers. You have to. Like, I don't know how else to say this. You've got to go get a Jammer burger, and you got to get the tater tots too. I mean, it's just something about it. I've never been able to, I mean, I used to be back there when they were cooking them and stuff, but I've never been able to figure out why they taste so different from pretty much everything else. I think it's just because of the flat top they use, but I don't know. They say it's not, so I'm not sure.
They're especially healthy. That's what they are.
That's what they say.
They're just like veggie burgers, but they taste good.
Oh, is that matter of fact, Brian Kelly tomorrow and Thursday night is there from Florida Georgia Line. You know?
Not from LSU, Brian Kelly.
No.
Oh,
no. They're there. You remember the band Everclear?
Yep.
They're going to be there soon. I just pulled it up just to make sure. I know who's going to be there May 15th. That's Mr. Patrick Davis.
Yep.
Tyler Farr, for any of you country music lovers, is going to be there soon. Grace Potter is coming down in June. The Blue Dogs, they're always there.
Always there.
And Bobby and those guys are the bomb. I'm trying to think. Corey Smith is going in late June. Boy, I might need to go to that. Edwin's going to be there 4th of July weekend, so we're driving and crying. What? Man, I haven't heard driving and crying in a while.
What's the band with the drummer who goes crazy? And they're always there.
That's Cowboy Mouth. Fred is the drummer.
Okay.
Have you ever met those guys?
Yeah. Absolutely. They're nuts.
I have too. Yeah. They are they're not on the schedule yet, but at some point in time, you know how that is. They're there every summer. I guess I could say this. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Fred in years, so if you got mad at me, I wouldn't really care. But after I was cleaning up late night when I was there, Darren, and this before I was at Carolina, so probably after my freshman or sophomore year. I was playing summer ball, but I was working there on the weekends, like when I could, and it was probably 2:30 or 3 in the morning because the Windjammer closes at 2, and they start kind of getting everybody out of there about 1:30. Well, the bands, I'm not going to say where the bands stay, but let's just say they stay close.
Yep.
And they kind of depart for a little bit, and you know how it is. They come back, and I found Fred. I found him about 3:30 in the morning, sleeping in a pan of barbecue in the kitchen.
There you go.
I didn't really say a whole lot. I didn't know what to do, so I went out and got somebody well that works there and said, "What do we do about this?" He goes, "Damn it, Fred."
Yeah. The thing I'll never forget about any performance from there. Number one, Fred sweats so much that it is raining off of the stage. And number two, if you can ever see, hopefully they've reinforced it a little bit, at least to the best of their ability. You can see kind of the wood panels underneath if you're underneath that part. And when they perform, you don't want to be underneath that part. Because if that thing's ever going to go, if that floor ever goes, I'll bet you, I'll put a futures bet on it if that floor ever goes. And I hope it never happens. If it ever does, Cowboy Mouth's going to be the one playing when it happens.
More than likely. I mean, I think he's calmed down a little bit, but he was a wild dude.
Oh yeah.
In so many different ways. I met Dan Marino there. I mean, I've met a lot of people there, but Dan Marino was pretty crazy. I had no idea it was coming. So there you go. So if you're in the Low Country, head to the Windjammer, where it's always a damn good time. All right, Mike Uva should be popping in here any minute. We will have him. I promise you that. I know he's trying to wrap up this interview that he's doing for Gamecock Central. Keith Allsep will join us coming up at about 1:20, 1:30 this afternoon, and we will we'll fuss and discuss a bunch of stuff with him. One of the things that I did not do yesterday, and I owe these guys an enormous apology because this is an incredible achievement. Congratulations to the Wofford Terriers. They are in the top 25.
They are
in college baseball, D1 baseball's top 25 poll. Darren, they're in at 25, and they're right behind a team we just talked about a little while ago in football, though, Georgia Southern, who's checked in at number 24. So I want to make sure that we give props to the Terriers. They are 30-10 on the season thus far, and they've got Clemson tomorrow night at Clemson. And I can only imagine what beating the Tigers would do for their resume. Their RPI, boys and girls, 13.
Yeah. Best in the state. It's amazing. As a guy who's done a whole lot of Southern Conference baseball going way back, Wofford used to be great, we have a weekend off. That was Wofford. So compare that to what they are now, and there are national articles getting written about them and how they've redefined their program with an aggressive type style and their recruiting as well. Good for them. I mean, tip of the cap to them.
And it is possible, but I'm not going to put the cart before the horse. But if they could find a way, and Mike, I'm not just hang on, Mike. They've got with Clemson, they got to go to Samford. It's going to be tough, and then after that, Asheville, the Citadel, PC, Western, VMI. If I could have it my way, they'll get swept by the Citadel because I love Tony and Blake. But it is a very navigable schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can navigate their way through this thing, Darren, you're talking about potentially over 40 wins in the regular season, and they win the SoCon championship. They could be in the hunt to be a host, and there's no way they're going to host a regional at Wofford University. Beautiful ballpark, but very small.
It's the size of this office.
Yeah. I mean, it's gorgeous. I've played there. It's beautiful. And it's a neat place to play, right on campus and everything. But they ain't hosting there.
No.
So
floor field is an option, though.
There you go.
Oh, boy.
That's probably more where. Wouldn't it be something if they hosted Clemson in their regional? The PR on that one for the Tigers would be tough. All right, Mike, we've kept you waiting. Were you getting your hair done, or what was going on there?
No, you're good.
I know you were on an interview. Can you say who it was with, or no?
Yeah, it was with. Well, as long as I hope to God, you know how these things go. We try not to share things until they're actually done in media because you say, oh, we got a big interview coming up, and then Johnny decides to say screw you, and he does an interview with someone else, or he just doesn't pick up his phone. Happened with a basketball player a couple of years ago. I won't say who. Funny story about that. I'll tell you off air. But yeah, I was with Nick Muse, and Nick gave us a good perspective of everything that's kind of going on in his life leading up to the draft. Just a neat perspective of what goes on for a NFL prospect, the meetings and some of the things that take place on these visits. I mean, just last week, Muse was in Cincinnati meeting with the Bengals. A couple weeks prior, he was meeting with the Carolina Panthers. So he kind of gives you that firsthand experience of what that is like. And then on top of that, currently on Gamecock Central, we have a interview that I did with JC Horn. That's just in writing. So if you know how to read, you'll be in good shape. If you don't, sit back and wait until the Nick Muse video comes out. But that will also be a written component of that. But no, we got a lot of stuff coming up on Gamecock Central. We'll have a draft breakdown coming up as well, leading you up to Thursday, because there's obviously about a dozen Gamecocks who hope to have their name called this weekend. And JJ Nembare is certainly the guy that everyone is looking at going into this. He's probably going to be a second round, third round pick now. You know, his stock unfortunately fell a little bit after pro day and combines, but you know, at the end of the day too, he's a good player. You know, the tape speaks for itself, and crazier things have happened sometimes with the draft because some guys get picked up a little bit earlier or later. Other teams kind of hop up and they want to be able to bring a guy in with that caliber, especially at that position. So I'm excited to see what happens. But I mean, shoot, you look over the last couple of years, there's been 3 Gamecocks that the last 4 years, 3 Gamecocks have been drafted in the first round, 3 of the last 4 years. So you know, it would be nice to see another Gamecock drafted in the first, but right now it looks like JJ is going to be on the outside looking in at least for day one.
Yeah. First of all, hats off to you. Really, really proud of you. I'm sure that you wanted to be able to write articles for a long time, but when you worked in Mississippi, you can't do that because the large majority of their residents can't read a lick.
Hey,
so
I love the fine people of the Delta and Mississippi. I will not say anything bad about Mississippi.
I'm just messing. I one of my great dear friends growing up married a good old boy from Ole Miss, and that's, you know, where she went to school and all that. And
TV screwed me up though, JB. TV screwed me up so bad. I had this conversation with Rick Henry.
What did they think about you in Miss? You don't fit in there. So what did they think about you?
I was just myself. I try to be myself. The toughest part about that is that was my first full-time job in TV. So you're truly trying to figure out who you are. I was still very, very young. I was about maybe a year out of college, if that. My accent was, if you think my accent's strong now, I think my accent is, I wouldn't say all the way gone, but it's definitely not there where it used to be. I mean, I truly sounded like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. I mean, it was really, you know, or as we say in Boston, wicked. It was wicked strong.
Not quite all the way gone yet.
No, but I'll tell you what, and I'm sure so many Gamecock fans just absolutely love him. The guy that actually helped me out a little bit over there was Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen was coaching at Mississippi State. Mullen's high school football, basketball, and track coach was my assistant coach in football in high school. And Mullen, with those New England ties, even though I like to bust his chops a little bit about his Southern accent, or at least I felt like it was a Southern accent when he was in Mississippi, because I felt like it was just from a recruiting standpoint, which, I mean, shoot, as we know from my fellow Assumption alum, Brian Kelly, you know, sometimes that happens when you go down to the South. But Dan Mullen, if people remember from watching Watch Fox, one of my catchphrases when I signed out and actually started Mississippi was "Don't touch that clicker." You know, when I signed off, you know, he played a big role with being able to create that. So he's like, you got to kind of have a catchphrase when you sign off, maybe some like Boston kind of twang to it. I'm like, all right, so that's how that was born. But no, good memories of Mississippi. Good old Mississippi. 2 bars, 2 roads. The Delta, Greenville, Mississippi.
It's a good. Hey, look, man, Mississippi's a good state. I mentioned to somebody not too long ago they were headed down there. I said, if you go to Mississippi and you say Mississippi, yeah, you can't do that. There's only 2 S's in Mississippi. Just either there might be spelled with 4, but you only say it with 2. So you better figure that out.
Sip. And don't call. I don't know about you guys with South Carolina, you know.
With Lane Kiffin?
Like South Kakalaki, you know, Boston Beantown, you know, San Francisco, calling it San Fran. I hate when people, the SIP. Just stop it.
They don't say that there. Why does Lane say that?
Because he's not from there, you know.
No, they go with it, though, because he's winning.
Yeah, well, notice how quickly people would get on if they were losing. You know, imagine
He doesn't care. He'd just dip out in the middle of the night.
Imagine Shane Beamer's catchphrase. Or better yet, I think a better person to use would be Muschamp, because, you know, you hope things work out with Shane. You know, when things weren't going well, imagine if the catchphrase was, you know, Hashtag welcome to South Kakalaki. I mean, that would be a really fun hashtag.
Back in the Kakalak.
Back in the Kakalak. Yeah. I don't know how many people would enjoy that.
I'd blow my brains out if I had to listen to that crap.
So get it to Lamont Paris now, because the basketball team needs some of their own new branding.
It's
back in Kakalak.
It feels like everyone's using the Welcome Home brand. I mean, now granted, and we've talked. JB and I were talking about this before. I'm sure some people are going to get offended, but then again, I mean,
I don't care.
No, not you. You'll be fine. You two will be fine. Some Gamecock fans will get upset. Gamecock fans, okay? Not all of you, because I think some of you get it. You didn't invent the phrase "welcome home." Okay, that is, real rich. Welcome home has been a phrase that, I mean, shoot, I got a new condo. Okay, I walk in, it says "welcome home." Are they stealing from South Carolina? Oh my goodness. No. I mean, geez. It's a great phrase. I love it. And I'm not saying anything bad about Jay Beamer's phrase. I think it's perfect. I think it fits great. But let's not sit here when other schools use it or other teams. Oh, they're using our catch. Will you stop it? Especially coming back from COVID, right? Like, there were teams like welcome back fans. Like, they had them in the state. Welcome back. Welcome home. Oh my goodness. You would have thought. You would have thought someone invented the newest Apple iPhone, and someone had stole the idea, and they had a patent on it. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Well, that's what really grind my gears, guys.
Oh yeah. It's damn welcome home police. Here we go. Yeah. It's no, I hear you for sure. You know what I'm saying there. Yeah. You're right, by the way. 3 of the last 4 years. Did y'all find it? Did any of you see the I didn't even know about it until which, by the way, Darren, as long as you don't care and as long as Mike doesn't care, I really don't care about running over the 1 o'clock hour today.
No.
Okay.
My family's just gonna stay into the guest rooms on the side, so they're fine. I just don't know until I'm done.
Condo looks good, by the way. I like the
I appreciate it.
Looking
good. The office isn't put together.
Is that 3 TVs?
No.
What are those 2 black things by the TV?
Those are speakers, which I'll probably get rid of. They're not plugged into anything. It's just for an aesthetic look right now.
Who still has speakers that size?
Well, we have these speakers came with it. And by the way, and you know this already. Let's not disclose where I'm living at, just for the record.
Because someone's going to come take that Emmy that is so creatively placed.
Well, I don't know where to
put
there an
Emmy back there? Yeah.
I don't know where to put that. Right. You want to know what really goes there? 9 times. And my girlfriend's
I see it.
My girlfriend's upset at me. You can kind of see it underneath it. What goes there? The Emmy's in the middle of the room, usually.
Yeah.
I have a lava lamp there. I told my girlfriend, I want a more adult looking living room. But then I saw a $20 lava lamp, and I bought it. And just like any $20 lava lamp, it doesn't work. Well, then again, I shook it up, which is like the one thing they say don't do.
Don't do.
But it was from Massachusetts. I saw that it was made in Massachusetts. I was like I think Target, spent $20, and I have a lava lamp. So I have a lava lamp, 2 speakers that are old and don't do anything because they're not plugged in. And
what about the ones that are in your wall? Are those 4 small speakers up there? Did you run those yourself?
They came with the place. I don't know if the guy had a couple of glasses of whiskey jam in them because they're a little off centered. But I mean, there's not much I can do about that. And there was no instruction manual. So I got to call a guy to come on over and hopefully.
So they don't. They don't.
No, none of the audio works. Nothing. The TV audio works, but other than that, no. The speakers, all 6 speakers are just there for look right now.
Darren, I think you and I have missed the mark for 2 years. I think we should have just had people on this show, anybody, and just dissect the backgrounds that are behind them and just get the stories behind the things in people's houses.
I'll tell you, when we moved into this current house, part of my logic was if we're spending all this money for this house, then my sound system is going to be on point. So that was essentially the first thing I did when I moved in. Before we even set up really anything, I made sure that the sub was in, that the surround was in, that everything was in. So I'm proud of that portion of this.
Well, Did I tell you this? And not that I'm sure all your listeners love like this home improvement segment of the show right now.
Okay,
But,
I'm an unwilling nerd. It's okay.
Once again,
Well,
we don't care.
First time buying a home. Okay. Now, mind you, I've been on the road the last 2 months. I think I closed, and I think I moved in here. I think maybe the first week of March. But I've been on the road so much because women's basketball just decided to keep winning, and then the SEC men's basketball tournament, that was fun driving down and coming right back. But anyway. After I closed, right, everything's great, fantastic, signed all the paperwork, did my final walkthrough beforehand. I come back, right, after signing all the paperwork, after doing the walkthrough, my fridge fries, just goes out. So not only have I been here for 2 months and I really haven't been inside it, but on top of that, I don't have a fridge. I finally got one. It's coming in on Saturday.
Was it on back order?
No. Shout out to the Home Depot. They sent me a 15% coupon. So I use that, and they're going to deliver it on Saturday. So I know my girlfriend's gonna be happy about that because we have a little college dorm fridge on the ground right now, and the milk froze the other day when she tried to make coffee. It looks like a freaking ice block. But
adventures in your first home, apartment, whatever, together. It's fun.
I hate it. Power went out the other day. I'm on the phone yelling at freaking Dominion. Shout out to all our Dominion employees that are listening. We love you. But goodness gracious, home ownership.
Awful.
God.
Get you a yard as big as mine, buddy. You'll really enjoy it. And you walk out there and the flowers are dead and the dogs have killed the grass and the boards popping off the fence. Like, dude, how does it every time I go out, I put the list together, things to do, I do it all, and then when I'm done, the list is longer. I can't figure out how this keeps happening.
I hate this whole growing up thing.
What did you not to shift gears because I do want to make sure that people get some sports in all this, but what did you make of those comments that we saw from Todd McShay about Debo? And I didn't know anything about it until I saw Heath Klein, who I think Heath Klein is one of the best ever to do it in this state. Post the comments that McShay basically said, for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, basically Tom McShay said, I thought Debo Samuel was a first-round guy, and then what scared me off with him from projecting that was, recovering from the injury, and he had talked with the staff at South Carolina that were a little concerned essentially with weight gain and kind of how he responded, in some workouts and stuff afterwards. How did you take that? Like, I'll be honest, I didn't really take it as Muschamp's staff like throwing him under the bus. I think some people did. I'd have to hear it in context as to like how it was said, but I think there's a bunch of people up in arms about it, and I'm not sure that Will Muschamp would bury a guy for no reason. Like, he's going to want all the first rounders he can get under his belt. So I don't know. How did you take that? What did you think about that?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, that's the response when a draft expert, whatever you want to phrase Todd McShay, and McShay's a Massachusetts guy. So I'm throwing that out there because he's been all over the place, more so on the East Coast. I think he went to college at Richmond. So he's been mainly on the East Coast, but obviously he develops relationships throughout the rest of the country. So I say that because I'm sure some people are going to try to pinpoint, okay, who was that coach and this and that. When you develop relationships with reporters, and I can just say from the other way around, from a reporter standpoint, when you're trying to get insight on players, and I haven't done it through the draft in a couple of years. I've had these conversations with another Massachusetts guy, Field Yates, who I think is one of the best at this time of the year when it comes to all the draft stuff. Our job is to reach out and develop relationships, develop rapport with people that we trust on what they tell us. So I say all that because for McShay, when he gets that information, he's looking for something truthful. And he wants to be able to have the coach, the strength and conditioning coach, whoever it may have been. It could have just been someone, on the staff that wasn't exactly a coach, could have been an analyst, whatever. They want to be able to get credible information. And you develop those relationships. Reporters can help coaches down the road with being able to put certain stories out there, float certain things out. That trust is important. So I feel like more than anything, it was just an honest assessment more than anything else. And I understand some Gamecock fans are going to look at it and be like, well, why are they burying one of our players? Why wouldn't you want them to do well? They want them to do well. But, I mean, shoot, it's like asking someone about someone's flaws. You know, I mean, basketball is just the easiest one that I can look at, right? You know, maybe they struggle with their left hand a little bit. It's okay to say that.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, that's just being honest. Not everything's all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, if that was the case, there wouldn't be anything critical that would be ever coming out from any of these coaches about their players. You know, I mean, you want to be able to be as honest as you can. And if there are, and the other reason is this too, sometimes that information is floated out there for a reason, to be able to help motivate these players to be able to get them to be a little bit better. Can it also be done in ways by other agents being able to put stuff out there because they're trying to help their client by knocking on some of these other players? Yeah, that happens too. But I think you got to look at the big picture of it all instead of just looking at it. Oh, why would someone say that about one of their players and this? I didn't look into it like that. I thought it was, you know, overblown. I thought it was great that he put it in that context and shared the article, at least that snippet from the article, because if you look at it, there was some good comments about Debo as well. But everyone was just so hung up on just that one sentence in particular.
I'll say this. I've had multiple conversations with college coaches and high school coaches. So for college, you're talking scouts who are looking at their guys. And for high school coaches, you're talking college coaches who are looking at some of the high school guys. And the coaches have almost all said to me, you want to be honest with these guys because it benefits when you do have a dude. You want to be honest so you can pick up the phone and call him, and that guy trusts you when you say, I got a dude. So you don't want to inflate people. You want to be as honest as you can be.
I agree
about everything that you've got so that you build a relationship and trust with everyone.
And we coddle, and I know some people are tired of hearing his name, but hey, look, give me at least a couple more months to process because I still love a lot of his isms. You know, looking at something that Frank Martin would always say, you know, we coddle so many of these athletes these days. And I think back to one of the things he shared a couple of years ago when talking about Chris Silva, and everyone, you know, got on Frank about how he's always tough and this and that. But he told Chris, he's like, look, you know, I'm going to get on you because that's how you asked me to coach you when you got here. And he feels like in the world of, you know, good athletes, whether it be basketball, football, whatever, sometimes you coddle the good players, right? Because you're afraid of what's going to happen. You know, you're going to be too mean on them. They might enter the transfer portal. The ones that want to get coached, the ones that want to get better, that's what they want to hear. If you have to baby someone, guess what? At some point, they're going to be in the NFL, and they're just going to be a number. They're just going to be a number again. You could baby some of these players in college. You could baby some of them in college, and you might be able to get away with it. But once they get to the NFL, they're just a number again. They don't care who they are. They don't. They don't care if you're the first pick overall. Go ask Jadeveon Clowney. They don't care who you are. Once you're in the NFL, you have to prove yourself all over again. So I think more than anything, if I'm a player, I want to be told the truth. Tell me point blank. Don't baby me. And if that hurts my feelings, hey, you know what, Debo, you were a little chunky. Hey, Debo, you might be a little, whatever the case may be, you know? If that hurts their feeling, grow the F up. Grow up. And I'm not saying this specifically at Debo. I'm saying this big picture to any athlete coming out, especially when we're talking about the NFL draft.
Well, hey, I agree. Yeah, and I love fudge, by the way. I wish you would have actually said the word. I totally agree. I just didn't see what the uproar was about all that. And if I was a player, I would appreciate Coach Muschamp being honest about it. Because it's going to put you in a worse spot if your coaching staff lies to inflate you. It doesn't even make sense to me that anybody would try to deflate one of their own players. Like, you're not going to do that. You want these guys to go as high as they can go. It's only a resume builder for you. If anybody ever looked at a college coach's bio on the website of whatever school they're coaching at, everybody lists all the players they've coached and anyone that's done anything.
Well, JB, you know what happens though? You know what happens? And it's always looking big picture. And obviously, you know, the Will Muschamp era ended not too long after Debo got drafted. But if Will Muschamp, and I'm not saying Will Muschamp was the one that specifically said it, but if Muschamp, someone on that staff, tells that to Todd McShay or any draft expert, and they say, oh, yeah, you know, Debo looks good with it. There's nothing negative, right? Next year, 2 years later, 3 years later, when they're doing all their draft previews and they go back to these coaches and things look the complete opposite, those national stories that can help a player raise their draft stock, they might not happen for the next player, whether that be a J.C. Horn or this year J.J. Nambari, because that draft expert looks like, wait a minute, this coach told me the complete opposite when I asked him, hey, this is what I'm being told about this player from a couple years earlier. Yep. It impacts the players down the road. You have to be honest. I mean, it's not even about football. It's not even about business. It's just about friggin' life. If you are deceitful, if you are lying, if you're just not honest with yourself or about other people around you because you're so worried about their feelings being hurt, it's going to impact other people down the line. I think that's something that people, if they're trying to find, well, why would you do that? Look at that. Look at the big picture. It impacts other players when you have those experts that are going to put out good stories, because there are going to be good stories. They might be like, you know what? And I know we're using Will Muschamp's name, and it was not in the story said that Will said it. You might not trust Will. You might not trust another assistant coach who told you that, if you're Todd McShay or another expert that reaches out for these comments on some of these players.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Mike Uva with Gamecock Central 106 on this Tuesday afternoon. All right, as far as this draft goes, a couple little nuggets for all of you here. You can pass this along in your next article. No credit needed. Did you know that 25% of the last 8 drafts, the top defensive player, the first defensive player chosen, has been from the University of South Carolina? Really? Jadeveon Clowney and J.C. Horn. I bet you just didn't realize in the last 8 drafts, there have been 3 Ohio State Buckeyes that have been the first defensive player taken in the draft. There have been 2 South Carolina Gamecocks. That's incredible. It's awesome. Also, if Zaquandre White and Kevin Harris are selected in this year's draft, it'll be the first time since 1986 that the Gamecocks have had 2 running backs taken in a draft. And when that happened, it was Kent Haygood and Thomas Dendy. So it's been a while, and that's very rare for any school to have 2 running backs taken in one NFL draft, Mike. But are you – I'm going to make this pretty simple. Over under 3.5 Carolina football players selected in the draft.
Ooh, that's tough. I think
who would be? How about this? Do you think there's 3? I think White, Harris, and we know JJ's going. I think those 3 all go.
We'll look at it this way, right? Since 2018, 12 players have been drafted from South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Last season, there was 4 players drafted. 2020, there was 4 players drafted. 2019, 3, and then 2018, 1. So I say all that because when you try to get a feel of what's been going on the last couple of years, and I think this has been said before, but you got to give credit to what Will Muschamp was able to do in terms of developing talent for the NFL. Why it didn't work out here, that's a story for another day. But he was able to produce a lot of NFL talent. He was able to recruit guys that went on to the NFL.
True.
And we can go back to 2018. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. 2018 was Hayden Hurst, but Hayden Hurst obviously was someone that he brought in here. But the point being is, you might look at some of those players; they may have been right on that. Okay, Steve Spurrier recruited him right before he stepped down and all that. But for the majority of those 12 players, they were all recruited by Will Muschamp. As far as this year goes, I mean, let's do the math out here, right? JJ Nambari, we expect him to get drafted.
He's going. I just have like White and Harris. I think there's 6th at best, but they're probably 6th or 7th rounders.
Running backs are just so tricky these days.
I know.
Running backs are so tricky. And I had a conversation with
who would you? Hey, let me ask you this, because you grew up a Patriots guy. I mean, you've kept up the NFL. Who would you take first? Like if you said, well, these are only 2 left on the board, who would you take first, White or Harris?
I'd say White, and the reason why is I feel like he can just do more from a receiving game as well. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like with the way the game is shifted, because I had this conversation with Marcus, and Marcus obviously he's going to have a bias towards running backs. I told him, I said, I know you're not going to like when I say this. This is on our recent Believe in South Carolina podcast, BLEAV, where Marcus gave some great insight in terms of what his draft process was like. Being told that he could go from anywhere being a first-round draft pick to being undrafted, and teams calling him that first night and second day. It was crazy. But I told him, I said, if I'm a general manager, why the hell am I going to pick a running back in the first round? Really? Running backs, and I wish I had the list in front of me. if you look over the last couple of years, the teams that have drafted running backs, specifically in the first round, and then on top of that, the highest paid running backs in the league, they're usually not the teams that are, number one, very good, but number two, competing for championships. And the reason why is running backs just aren't going to win you championships these days. But on top of that, once you get to that second contract, these players are just so beat up. They're so beat up, which is ironic when you think about the days of, the Barry Sanders, the Walter Paytons, when there was actually work horses, and they'd be, in the league a little bit longer, which granted, I get it. Barry retired a little bit sooner, but I say all that because I just feel like from a running back standpoint, when you look at, and I know I'm biased, but when you look at how the Patriots have done things, I really think they've set the tone and kind of the blueprint of how to be successful, outside of the fact that you just have a quarterback marry a supermodel and he can not be the cash cow winner or the breadwinner at the house. But running backs, you don't need to necessarily draft them. Yes, they had Sony Michel a couple of years ago, but he's not even on the Patriots anymore. I feel like if you go out, get free agent running backs, you're able to get him from another team. I mean, that's what the Rams did. The Rams were able to pick up Michel. They were able to pick him up as a free agent. I just feel like when you look at the NFL, running backs are just it's a tricky position. It's a very tricky position. And Marcus said he wouldn't be shocked if it starts to head down the line in the direction of where fullbacks are. And I know that might sound absolutely crazy, but think about it 10, 15 years ago. If I said, the fullback's going to start to, or not even, imagine if I told you that 25 years ago, fullback's going to be a position that will start to die at some point. You'll be like, what are you talking about? I formation, smash mouth football. It just changes. So I know I'm talking in circles now, but the point being is I think when you look at those two running backs, and on top of the fact, I think this is the other thing, the injuries. Injuries are another thing that just is going to make teams a little hesitant sometimes. Not for every player, but if you're already one of those players and you're talking about toss up, if both players were healthy, I think it makes it a little bit more challenging to decide which one. But I feel like with what White can do from a passing game standpoint, on top of the fact when you talk about the injuries that Kevin Harris has had, I think that if you look at those two players in particular, I would take White before him. Does that mean that Harris won't get drafted? Does that mean Harris won't have a good NFL career? No. But if you're asking me based on those two, I'd take White first.
Well, to wrap it into a full circle, it started with Deebo Samuel. Yeah, you could see the running back role changing into something like what Deebo's doing now, whether he likes it or wants to keep doing it.
Or was doing.
Yeah.
Right. I do want to, because I see Mac and Dino podcast, Casey just drafted a running back in the first round. I hear you, but just go down the list. There's always going to be the outlier in it. There will always be an outlier that will stick out. On top of the fact that you have Patrick Mahomes there, right?
Well, their offense was already built. They just needed somebody to complement what they had. You're not building your offense.
There'll always be like an outlier. Okay, Kansas City in this case is the outlier. If you go down though that list, the majority of the teams that have drafted running backs high over the last couple of years, they just haven't been in the mix.
Yeah,
that's a fact. There'll be outliers though, like KC. Absolutely, Mac. I will agree with you on that one though.
Yeah, I would like to see the numbers on. I probably need to do the research on that. I'm not sure if they're out there, but let's say in the last, because it's really changed more. I would pretty much in the last decade or so, maybe give or take a couple of years, but all the running backs that have gone, let's say in the last 10 to 12 years, and what percentage of those running backs have gone third to fifth, sixth and seventh, and then your top two rounds, 1, 2, or I mean, how many guys are running around the NFL right now that when they put up their profiles on TV, it undrafted?
Well, here I have
a lot of them.
I have it right in front of me.
I just pulled it up too.
Yep. First round last year, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne.
That's it, right?
That was last year. The year before that.
And Najee's, it's a different example for him, right? Because of where he is in Pittsburgh, that makes sense. He's not going to be an overused Saquon and see what happened to him, but that's another good example.
And I know the listener just mentioned Clyde being picked up in the first round by Kansas City. Yep, like I said, that they'll always be the outlier. 2019, Josh Jacobs, Raiders. 2018, you had Barkley, Saquon.
He's all right.
He's been hurt.
Rashad Penny, yeah, he had a pretty good, but look where the Seahawks are. The Seahawks aren't where they were a couple years ago. Sony Michel, he didn't help the Patriots get over that hurdle of where they wanted to be. You could just keep Leonard Fournette, at least being drafted on the team that he was with the Jaguars, and then Christian McCaffrey. So, that's not to say these running backs aren't good. That's not saying it. But in terms of trying to compile a championship team outside of the outlier, which is in this case the Kansas City Chiefs, or what they were able to do in 2020, running backs just don't win you championships the same way they used to, at least drafting a running back. Now, does that mean you can't get a talented running back like we saw with Michelle with the Rams this past year for free agency, or what we saw with Leonard Fournette with what Tampa Bay was able to do through free agency? You can do that as well. Patriots, of course, have done that. I just feel like from a draft standpoint, if I'm a team, why draft a running back in the first round? I just don't feel like running backs are going to win you championships. Go get him on that second contract. Go get him on that third contract. Let him get the crap kicked out of him on that first contract, and then you can bring him in and not have to pay him as much. And then you can build your team around that, having it, whether it be offensive lineman, quarterback, whatever you need with that first overall pick. Or that round.
Hey, in the last 3 years, 61 running backs have been drafted. Only 4 of them have gone in the first round.
All right, I'll go deeper because here's where I was just going to come. Since 2010, the most in the first round running backs is 3. It's happened twice that 3 running backs have gone in the first round since 2010, and like 2 other times at 2. Other than that, it's 1.
2012.
I didn't realize how sharply it already has dropped off, because there's a lot of talk now that it's dropped off, but it's been a consistent drop off now that's going back over a decade.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. 2010 and 2012, that was it, Darren. It hasn't been since 2012 that 3.
I just want to make, because I'm seeing some of the comments on here. That's not to say running backs can't be good in the NFL. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
I'm just looking at some of the comments on the side. The point being is, if you're an NFL team trying to compete for championships, the last couple of years, at least what we've seen, running backs aren't going to win you a championship. It's just not. Obviously we know it's a quarterback-driven league now more than anything, but we've seen from other teams, like I used for the Patriots, for example, or you talk about the Ravens with Nick Chubb. You get running backs that play for other teams. These other teams are dumb enough to draft a running back in the first round. They pay that top dollar. They get the crap kicked out of them body-wise, so when that second contract comes around, teams don't want to pay them that. So when they go through free agency, they're still good running back. Teams will pick them up because they're not going to have that same type of money if they paid in that first round draft pick, right? And then, So that's where I'm going with that. That running backs. I mean, I just look at Christian McCaffrey. He's one of the most talented running backs in the NFL with what he's able to do. But at the same time, too, look what it's done for the Panthers since he's been there. Nothing.
It's always, in the words of Mike Morgan, everything's a crapshoot. You don't really ever, but they're just not a priority. I mean, the overwhelming majority of NFL teams, unless there's a can't miss prospect that at that position that absolutely to a T complements or fits your offense, and you got to have that guy because it's going to make your offense click to no end. You're going to draft a running back when you draft a running back. The large majority of them now are third round and later. I think, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? You did have the 2020 draft. You had 5 go in the second round. Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, Dobbins, and AJ Dillon. That was just a really good class. So you went up and got him, but most of them are third and later. If you actually do the percentages, I'm not arguing with anybody. I'm not saying that I'm with you, Mike. Darren, you said nobody's saying that nobody drafts running backs in the first round. People do draft running backs. It's just not a priority. Other tackles are priorities now in the first round.
It's proven. And
quarterbacks.
It's a different strategy now, because now as you're seeing these running backs wear down earlier and earlier, the strategy is not let's go dump first round money in. The strategy is we can get a guy a little bit later and put our first round money, our investment, in something that is, I don't know, has better odds for your return on that investment. It's a simple just breakdown of money, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just not something in the first round. Like I said, you'll always have your outliers. I mean, we could keep going back down the list, right? Ezekiel Elliott, great running back. What good has that done for the Cowboys?
Well, what a lot of what's happening?
Todd Gurley, 2015.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon, Chargers.
But Mike, to kind of back up everything here, I'm not an NFL expert, so I don't want this to come off that way, but just basically the way I understand it when I hear these conversations happen nationally. So what league is the NFL? What position drives the NFL? What is it?
Quarterback.
It's a quarterback league. So you protect your quarterback at all costs. So you're dumping money now into tackles and guards and centers and things like that. And then your offense is built around the quarterback. So you just find there are a dime a dozen running backs that can complement the large majority of offenses in the NFL. Very rarely are there a guy that's absolutely a difference maker for whatever reason. So on the offensive side of the football, if you're throwing the football a lot, which they are, you want to have good receivers. You want to be able to protect the guy that's throwing the football, and you got to be able to pay the guy that's tossing it. And he's got to be good. Running back's almost like fourth on the depth chart now when it comes to the most important positions over there because there's so many of them. Does that make sense? I'm not discounting the position. I love it. It's still running back is. I love a good running back. Oh my God, I wish we could go back to 1980 and have Big George and Herschel going at it again. Yeah. I'll just say where the game's gone. You just look at the numbers. The numbers tell you exactly what's happened in the draft.
Right. You need a running back. You need a quality running back, but it's just a matter of where you're putting your dollars. It's dollars and cents.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so over under. How about this? I'll go over. I'm going to give it over. I think I already saw it on the board here. It might have been the Macandino guys. I love
signed,
those.
Drafted, correct?
Drafted. Yeah. They're all going to get signed. I mean, Parker's getting signed. Jabari will get signed. I'm going to go for. I think somebody out there loves what they see out of Jalen Foster and gives him a late round nod. I think he's a six round or something like that. I think Jalen Foster. How can you not like that story, man? Somebody that's got Patriots written all over it.
Well, and it's not the exact same, but when you look back,
Mr. Patriots.
No. When you look back, yeah. And then what happened after? I mean, Todd Gurley's not even on the team anymore, Macadino. I mean, come on, man. Goodness, these running backs. I mean, go draft a running back. Mac. Who's your NFL team? Let me ask you that.
Mine is I jumped on Darius's banner. I'm going to be a Dolphins fan now.
But Jesus!
Oh God! Don't sign up with Tua.
I'm just kidding.
No, I don't care less. So not the exact same story. Obviously, different positions. But when I look at Jalen Foster, could be kind of like an Ernest Jones situation, right? We weren't expecting Ernest to be drafted as high up as he was, and then obviously he played. Not only just a great season, but he played a critical role in the Rams being able to win that Super Bowl.
Dude, that was amazing.
So I think what we're seeing now is there are teams that will take chances on players because they see that potential. Ernest was one of those guys. Ernest was a guy that his potential kept growing. You just need one team to fall in love with you. I'm not saying anything that no one else knows. I think Jalen's going to be one of those guys. So you talk about Jalen Foster. You talk about JJ and Mbare. I think another guy, too, that I think will impress a lot of teams, he could be a little bit later, is Jabari Ellis. I was really, really impressed with how Jabari played this season. Big body, but he moves. He moves. For a guy of that size, he moves. Really liked him. Kickers are always tough. He's going
to get signed, though. Parker will get signed. He can kick at 100 yards. I mean, somebody's going to sign the kid.
Nick Muse. I'm not just saying because I just interviewed him, but I think and this is one of the things that we talked about in the interview. What helps Nick Muse, outside of the fact that, he's a big body, he has football in his blood with his brother in the NFL right now, currently with Tanner Muse. The fact that he came back, and he's been telling teams this, he came back because he really wanted to fine-tune his special teams ability because he didn't feel like he was getting a lot of playing time on special teams because he was coming back from an injury and the previous staff wanted him to just focus at tight end. He comes back. He was able to learn from two of the best special teams minds right now in the game with obviously Shane Beamer, but on top of that with Pete Lembo. So I think special teams is really going to help Nick Muse out, and I expect him to also get his name called.
Big Nick energy.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, hey, look, I just saw, and we got to let you run here in just a second, Mikey, but Saxter, I love that name. Worrisome that Jalen Foster wasn't invited to the combine after a season. I don't think that's that worrisome, and let me tell you why. Because Foster, he wasn't a guy who tested out real well anyways. He was just a ball hawk. And Torian's talked about that. Shane's talked about it. Coach White's talked about it. He's just a guy who just understands football and he plays his tail off. I don't think that's a bad thing at all because he probably missed out on testing out for some teams, and good for him. Now, all they have is the tape. You know what I mean? Turn on the tape, and that'll tell you what type of player I am. In the SEC, I was an All-American in the SEC at this position. I think he gets a shot. I'm going to go with 4. I'm going to go with 4 that get drafted, 3 late ones, and JJ goes late second, early third.
I'll go on.
Y'all can do whatever you want to do.
What's the line? What you said?
I said 3.5. 3.5.
Ah, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you got that hook. It's tough. I'm going under.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a competition. I mean, it really doesn't matter.
No, it is. It is, JD. That's the problem.
It's like when I'm teaching my daughter. Well, how much are we teaching her to bet? Right? I mean, you got to understand that everything does matter here. All of the details matter.
All right, it's time. You need to get an account at MyBookie. Here's $100.
All right, JJ and Mbare gone. We're gonna get Nick Muse drafted. He'll be on the board as well.
Who will?
Nick Muse.
Oh, you think?
I'm saying that I'm throwing out the guys. I think. Yeah, you know what?
You think Muse gets
over?
Oh, so you're going with 4 or 5?
I'm not going to say my number.
No, you're just over.
I
as
think
long as he gets to 4, it doesn't matter if it's 4 or 20. He cashes.
No, I think to have some fun with it. No, I think JJ Mbare will be drafted. I feel like Nick Muse will be a late draft pick. I feel like Zaquandre White will get drafted. And then I think the question mark now is either Jabari Ellis or Jalen Foster. I think you're gonna have. I think 5. I think Jalen will squeak in there, and I think Jabari Ellis will get drafted as well. I really do.
Okay. Well, I hope they all.
I go back to Mac. I appreciate the conversation here today.
Yeah, these cats are awesome, dude.
He's awesome. He's good. I think the point of everything, and I want to go back to this running back thing because it's going to be driving me nuts for the rest of the day. Thank you, Mac. I think the whole point of it is historically. I wouldn't say historically. The last decade or so, running backs, in terms of just being able to compete for championships yearly, it's just not there. It's just not there. At least drafting a running back up high. That's not to say running backs aren't important. That's not saying that running backs going extinct, even though Marcus thinks it's going that way. I just think the teams that have put so much stock into drafting a running back up high, they kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball because, I mean, shoot, those guys just get beat up. They get beat up so early in their career. Once you get to that second contract, it's like you really want to continue to pay that top dollar for that running back because if you got a guy like Christian McCaffrey, look what the Panthers did. They had to spend more money in order to keep him there for that second contract. If you don't, he tests the free agent waters. You might have a team that's crazy enough to pay him that. But what we've seen more times than not saying everyone, more times than not, teams aren't going to want to pay that top dollar because they realize, wait, they're kind of beat up. And, I mean, I don't know what the exact age is for a lot of these running backs in terms of them slowing down a little bit. But, yeah. Anyway, can we take it? Absolutely.
I'm glad you agree.
Well, I got to realize I'm still learning how the StreamYard works.
I'll read that one.
The private chat is the private chat. I mean, Keith's in the waiting room, but if we're going to just roll into him, we're going to
if Mike didn't have anything to do today, we can leave Mike on when we get Keith in. I don't care about that, but we do.
I'll talk for Keith. I mean, when the Celtics won, everything's all sunshine and rainbows, and Kyrie can go get his golf clubs. I mean, Keith, how'd I do?
Speaking of gambling, Celtics money line the last 2 games. Rock on, Green.
Oh,
beautiful.
All right. Well, do you want to stick around and toy around with Keith for just a second, or do you have to go?
This is Keith's day, man. I don't want to take away from Keith.
Okay.
Plus, we found out one of the 4. I will say this, a little teaser towards the end. We did find out one of the 4 welcome home commitments by Shane.
Oh, that's not true. Then 2 of the 4 because you know damn well who one of them's been for a while.
So we will hopefully
don't play dumb.
Hopefully be announced. At least one of these 4 will be announced sooner rather than later.
I maybe today.
Could be today. Could be today. Could be by the end of the week. But
don't sandbag us. We know definitely who 2 of them are.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the other two, but I know who. Anyways, whatever. All right, Mike. Well, let's see. We'll checks in the mail. We'll get it. We'll get it to you. You know, when we get it. Don't have your new address, so don't send it, but it'll be there.
Yeah, sounds great.
People are like, "Do you have Venmo?" I'm like, "No, checks in the mail, man."
Oh God. Yeah, that's all I need. People just showing up. You know, that'd be great.
Yeah. But you don't have my address. You know what? We know each other so well. I'll guess it.
Yeah, I'm sure Gamecock Central subscribers would have loved to know where my address was that day when I wrote the story about how the attendance doesn't matter. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, somebody is going to figure it out before long. Unfortunately for you.
I agree with you if that matters to you at all.
No, the atmosphere is what matters more. But it became and I'll use the word Gamecock as I sign off here with you guys. It became a Gamecock measuring contest. You know, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
that's all it was.
Exactly what it was.
There you go. I mean, like, really, who the hell cares?
Yeah. I the number was wrong. We all know the number was wrong. I wish I would have gotten the number right, but I didn't lose sleep over it.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
like
because
I didn't
the mayor.
lose.
The mayor was going to throw a parade. I put in my story for Gamecock Central. The mayor was going to throw a parade down Main Street. It was going to be great. Shane Beamer was going to be waving like, you know, the old school 1960s president.
He has a good wave.
Oh, it's going to be great going down there. You know, oh, it'd be great. You know, put a banner up inside of Williams-Brice. You know, Gamecock fans had X amount of people at their spring ball game. You know, cue up the band. You know, come on,
cue up. Cue it up.
I'm done. I don't want to hold Keith up, but Keith, if you are in the waiting room, go Celtics. Scream Teeners are moving on to the second round, baby. And no Kyrie.
Right.
Love it.
Right on. Mikey, thank you so much, my friend. It really means a lot to us, and we will certainly be in touch pretty soon. But good work. Gamecock Central is full of good stuff right now. Excited about the Muse interview soon. And I know there's some stuff up there already, some good interviews on there I haven't even gotten to, but I'll get to them today at some point. But thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. And Tyler, I will be at Halls tonight. If you want to come on by, I'll buy you a Miller.
Miller. Nice. That Darren will be there. He's a Miller guy.
You get that one?
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah, we got it.
There we go.
Gotcha.
Some are slower than others. You know.
Yeah, we got it.
All right.
Not the High Life or the Light, just a special Miller.
Just the Miller.
Special Miller on the rocks.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. See ya.
See you guys.
There you go, Mike Uva with Gamecock Central. All right. We know that we're late getting to Keith, but we're going to be a little bit later because we got to hit just a quick break, Darren. You can shorten it if you need to. And then Keith Allsep will join us in our final segment here this afternoon. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone. Again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily, family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, rib night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and awesome.
1:35. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show today, driven by FreewayFlyersUSA.com. Before we move any further, holy moly, Krispy Kreme has debuted the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Donut. Oh, my God. It looks unbelievable.
Sounds good. It's hard to mess up Cinnamon Toast Crunch anything.
Yeah, and Krispy Kreme donuts.
And Krispy Kreme anything.
Dude, I could literally eat Krispy Kreme donuts and Chick-fil-A every day for the rest of my life. Those two things would either kill me or keep me alive. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
They keep me alive till they kill me.
Just thinking about all those mornings being at the Krispy Kreme on Wade Hampton in Greenville and watch them roll like 12 or 15 dozen off with the stick.
Hot and fresh.
Yeah.
Dude, are you a Krispy Kreme guy?
Car straight to Spartanburger, Gaffney, and I didn't have any problems getting in those offices on Friday morning.
No, sir. Not with Krispy Kreme. Is there anybody in the world that likes Dunkin' Donuts over Krispy Kreme?
Mike Uva.
Their coffee. I'll take the Dunkin' Donuts coffee for sure.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't like Krispy Kreme's coffee. Good point there.
Yep.
Mike Uva's a Dunkin' Donuts guy? Yeah, he is. He's told me that before.
It's the hub. I mean, everywhere you go, you go to the Boston airport, about every 20 feet, there's a Dunkin' Donuts.
The Providence Arena is Dunkin' Donuts Arena.
Yeah.
Dude, that's not even close, though. They're Dunkin' Donuts. They don't even taste like donuts when you go eat Krispy Kreme.
The best thing about Dunkin' Donuts is their breakfast sandwiches and their coffee.
Bingo. I'm with you. I like their sausage, egg, and cheese.
Chocolate cake donut.
Sounds
it's
good.
Not a glazed chocolate, but it's kind of like a chocolate cake donut.
At Dunkin'?
Dunkin' Donuts. That's like my favorite one from there, but I'm just a traditional. Just give me glazed.
Dude, absolutely. When I used to work at ESPN, Darren knows this. He used to work there too. How many times would those folks just show up and drop off donuts for the staff? And luckily my office was on the back window, so I would see when someone was coming in, and I'd go sprinting to the front. I'll take them. I'll get them back there and grab about 6 out of there before I even dropped them off in that little kitchen area, Darren.
It's a great little promotional idea they've got. Let's just bring everyone donuts.
Until they do the free dozen day or whatever it is, like $1 a dozen or something. You get traffic for miles.
Yep.
Come on, man, to save like $6. It's crazy, but they do it. I don't know. All right, Keith. So what are we talking? We've talked about the Windjammer. We've talked about the donuts. We talked about Mike's non-working speakers. I mean, we've literally done nothing today.
I think it has to be the Boston Celtics sweeping out Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. The Nets 10 days ago were the favorites to win the East and just behind Phoenix to win the NBA. And then, these bunch of young guys that Kyrie Irving ditched to go to Brooklyn, they just took him out, and Kyrie Irving was a non-factor for the entire series. So maybe he's eating donuts today.
Probably is. If he's not, he should be.
He's the weirdest dude I've ever seen, but I saw him play in person his first year with the Celtics in Dallas, and I saw him have one of the 10 most efficient scoring games for anybody to score over 40 points or 45 points in the history of the NBA. And he is a magnificent talent, but anybody that thinks the earth is flat, there's serious issues there.
Yeah, I can prove to you pretty quickly it's not flat.
You think? Yeah, we've got just a little bit of proof.
Yeah, I've heard some weird things in the last 10 plus years or so, but that one was up there towards the top of the list. When first time that ever came out, I was like, yeah, pretty sure this guy is a little wacky. Anyways, all right, well, Keith, we have held off on any of the transfer stuff. We've held it for you. Haven't even sniffed it. We mentioned Hayden Brown yesterday, but then we got off the air. Michi Johnson from Ohio State committed to South Carolina. Brevin Galloway's the next one that we're keeping an eye on. Whether he chooses the Gamecocks or the Tigers, we'll find out. So your thoughts on those two players? What do you know about them?
So I like Hayden Brown. He's a guy that's a lunch pail kind of guy. He's a row the boat.
Yeah, man.
Chop wood kind of guy. He's gritty. He's tough. He's a team guy. He can play multiple positions. He can guard multiple positions. You look at this past season, I mean, he had 19 points at Pitt on 8 of 18 shooting, 7 rebounds. He had 18 points at Duke, 7 for 12, 3 of 4 from 3. He had 35 points against Samford. 27 points against UT Chattanooga in the Southern Conference tournament, 11 and 19, 17 rebounds in that game, 27 points, 17 rebounds. And so I think for Lamont Paris, he's got a guy that is probably a stretch 4. I think you'll see a lot of small ball with only one big guy. And so I like him. And then Michi Johnson's kind of an interesting take because he was a prodigy, a lot like Seventh Woods. And I think that's probably where you can end the comparison.
Okay.
Because he had an unbelievable freshman year in high school. Like his second high school game, he dropped 50 points. Okay. Then his sophomore year, he goes all the way through the year. He's averaging 23 points a game. By then, the guy's already offered by almost everybody in the country. And he tears his knee up. And so he misses his junior season of high school. Then, instead of coming back and playing his senior year, Ohio State said, well, we'll just go ahead and take you mid-year. Come on in. So the guy really hadn't played much basketball since his sophomore year in high school. He missed his junior year due to injury. His senior year, he enrolled in Ohio State in December. Didn't play much. He's kind of, battled some injuries. In Big 12 play, he did shoot 34% from threes and 80% free throw shooter. I mean, I kind of compare him a little bit to Letitia Ame here on the women's side. She was a phenom. Her dunking going into her sophomore year or after her sophomore year of high school went viral. She was the number 1 player in the country. And then her career was derailed by knee injuries. And when she's gotten a consistent chance of playing and knows what her role is going to be, like last year in the NCAA tournament. And then when she played point forward in Destiny Henderson's absence, she's been fantastic. But then, well, who am I playing behind? I'm not starting. Is Lily coming in? Is Cardoso coming in? What's my role going to be? And so I think for Meechie Johnson, I don't know if it'll be the same, but I think he's got a chance to be South Carolina's starting point guard. And I think, they're going to recruit multiple point guards simply because, you just don't know. So I think the book's not been written on him. He's a high ceiling guy, but his career's just been derailed by injuries.
Who is on the roster at South Carolina right now?
All right, so you got those two guys. You got the two guys coming in, and then mainly you've got Josh Gray. You've got the other big
transfer from Evansville, Boynton,
that dates Aaliyah Boston.
Chico Carter? No.
Big guy.
I don't even know who else is still there. Minot?
Let me pull up the roster.
I'm trying to think. Trayvon.
In the backcourt, you got Chico Carter, and you got the freshman point guard from this past year.
Jacoby Wright.
Jacoby Wright.
Yeah.
And so Trayvon.
Minot. Yeah.
Okay.
He dates Aaliyah Boston?
Yes, and Javon Benson. I will come out of retirement as a coach to coach their child. Boy or girl.
I was about to say. I mean, you're going to know when they come in the restaurant, right? He's about 6'10", and she's 6'5".
Yeah, he's like 6'10", 270, and she's 6'5".
I had no idea that there was a matchmaking going on between men's and women's basketball at Carolina. Fantastic. Who set that up? Dawn? Frank?
I don't know. Maybe she was just looking around to try to figure out who was taller than her, and she could still wear heels. And
the two tallest people on campus said, "Hell, hey,
she's very fashionable." Shout out to Aaliyah for being the consensus National Player of the Year, and she just signed another big NIL deal with Under Armour.
Yeah. Well, Josh Gray's pretty tall. He's 7 feet.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's a big dude.
I mean,
to me, I love Josh Gray.
I do too, man.
Prospect. I think if he's healthy, he could really be a first round NBA guy. I don't know. Maybe he'll stay in college too long to be drafted in the first round.
I mean, he just looks the part, Keith. Every time I see him, I just see raw. But if somebody can coach him, holy moly! I mean, this is maybe you can answer it because you might know more than I know. This is, in my opinion, purely a speculative question because I have no information on this. But since he has already transferred once, do we know if that's why he has decided to stay, or because he would be limited, he'd have to sit out and all that stuff, or does he just want to stay?
I mean, I can't really answer that. I think number one, he would have to sit out a year if he transferred. And two, I think what's not to like about South Carolina? I mean, it's a great spot. You got a great setup. 650 Lincoln's probably one of the 2 or 3 premier setups in the country. The practice facilities right there and the arena, everything. You're in one of the best 3 conferences in the country for college basketball. And you got a guy now that's not going to scream and holler and curse and clap in your face and tell you how bad you suck every time you make a mistake.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I had a conversation with somebody about this morning because oftentimes in the transfer portal, one of the main reasons that the transfer portal was created and so players can move about and get a fresh start where they need to, where they would like, or whatever the case is. But I do find it interesting how many players transfer out who are wanting a fresh start when there's a coach fired. I'm like, well, you're getting a fresh start by getting a new coach. Why don't you give it a chance? I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I don't care. But I just find it interesting. Coaches get fired, and it's like, well, if that guy hadn't left, I mean, if that guy was still here, I'm leaving. Well, he's gone. Well, I'm transferring anyways. It's almost like some kids just do it just to do it. It's like a trend.
And Martin's style is not changing, and he's having just plenty of success pulling in transfers up at UMass too.
Getting players. I haven't kept up with it. I know he's got a bunch though, doesn't he?
Yeah, not just the South Carolina guys. He got a couple other guys from up in that region that have transferred. I mean, there's already a little bit of buzz about UMass.
Man,
I mean, best of luck. We'll see what the rest is. I'm not convinced.
All right, let's talk 5 stars, Keith. Expected to hear the decision tomorrow of GG Jackson. Your expert opinion of where he lands is?
North Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's where
Hubert Davis. I think the run they've made, probably the fact that Duke already has, like, in this class, 6 5-star guys, and 4 of them are like 6'9" to 7 foot.
Holy moly! This is at Duke.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that they were able to have like the number 1 or 2 recruiting class in the country in spite of the coaching transition, because they went ahead and announced it. And, that dude that's now the head coach, he had been their lead recruiter. I mean, he is a monster recruiter. And so I just think it's North Carolina. I think, they're the big time program, the national brand. I think Hubert Davis, as an African-American head coach, and their staff has really rolled out the red carpet every time for him. And so if I'm Lamont Paris, when he announces tomorrow, it's down to South Carolina and North Carolina, and I'm recruiting the hell out of him until the day he signs.
Is overtime elite or professional? I mean, not professional, but an avenue outside of college, overtime elite or other, is that on the table for him still?
I mean, it depends on what the offer is. I mean, it's just like some of these guys in Major League Baseball, they go out of high school, they go ahead and sign and wait it out to leverage to get more money. And so, we'll see. There's already been one kid out of Columbia that's done it.
Well, is he reclassifying or no?
I don't think so. I think he's staying in 2023.
Okay. So I'm not trying to predict that anything is going to eventually come out of this. And I'm not even trying to quote unquote leave the door up for Carolina, because I literally know nothing about it. I'm just saying that is, if you're a Gamecock fan and you want to convince yourself there's still a chance to land this young man, that's the way to do it. He's not reclassifying. He's going to be a while before he signs, and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't relitigate the past, but I mean, that's why this whole bozo, I mean, only incompetent people get to have another year on the job after they've already completely, proven their incompetence time after time after time. And I just have to think, if Frank Martin would have been fired last year, like he would have been, we could be sitting here today with a completely different outlook on South Carolina men's basketball because of what a new coach could have brought in the portal his first year, and now be bringing in the portal his second year, just like Shane Beamer. Look at the difference from portal from before he coached a game until this year. And by the way, 2 5-star local guys in Julian Phillips and GG Jackson that a new coach would have had time enough to build a relationship with.
What's the word on Julian Phillips? I've gotten some quote unquote behind the scenes information the last week plus or so on him. But not sure what to make of it at this point in time. What are you hearing?
I mean, I think it's going to be who has the best NIL package.
Okay.
I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, just like that's what it's going to start coming down to in football. Who has the best NIL package?
Does South Carolina have an NIL package available to offer Julian Phillips at this point?
I mean, I was told that they were trying to get the same package they had teed up for Gigi Jackson. I don't know. I was told that was quite substantial.
Huh.
And so, we'll see. I mean, to me, there's two guys that are out there that could be deciding soon for South Carolina, not the kid from Anderson. I think he's going to Clemson, but Max Kleesmit, is that how you say it? Kleesmit?
From Wofford?
From Wofford.
Okay.
I mean, this guy, he's got 2 years of eligibility. Okay. He was just a sophomore this past year. And by the way, he lit you up, Frank Martin. 27 points, 8 of 10 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, and 4 steals in 37 minutes against guys that were really good defenders. And so to me, that this is a guy, and John Whittle said that the two guys that they had really prioritized was Hayden Brown and Michie Johnson, because it's like Mac and Dino said, LeBron James used to go to Michie's games, like high school and AAU. I mean, he was literally a really big deal. Right? And so those are the two guys they have really prioritized. But to me, Kleesmit is a guy that I think is an absolute no-brainer if you can get him at South Carolina, because this guy, shoots 45% from the field, 34% from 3, but in the big games against the big opponents, he was really dialed in, just like Hayden Brown, really dialed in the higher the level of competition. So, and then there's Ibrima Deba, who's a 6'6" point guard from Coastal, who was number 22 in the nation in assists. I think top 20 assists, or maybe in total assists, and then assists per games is both like in the top 22. More of a facilitator, but a big, long guy that can guard multiple positions. And a guy's a bigger point guard, that you could play with Michie Johnson, because he's kind of a smaller point guard, 6'1" probably. And, a guy that could see over traps and double teams and things of that nature.
I can already hear the Lamont Paris naysayers now. Oh, great. We're just filling up the roster with a bunch of SoCon guys. Here we go. Yeah. Well, all these guys. I know. I agree. I just hear it now. And those are people that don't even know how to dribble a basketball, key. So I don't really care, but it's just, they have a Twitter account, so they know everything. Over under 3.5, the NFL draft this weekend for the Gamecocks.
I'm taking the under simply because there's back concerns probably about Kevin Harris.
Fair.
There's other concerns about Zaquandre White.
Very fair.
I don't know. I mean, running back, there's just tons of them, and there are tons of guys that are undrafted free agents that wind up making teams. And quite frankly, I know you talked to Mike about it. I think this is much ado about nothing on Will Muschamp's staff with Debo, because Debo was heavier that year.
Yeah.
Debo also skipped out on the bowl game, and Debo had a number of injuries, an injury history. Sure, he was a first-round talent, no doubt about it. But with the history of injuries and the fact he opted out of the bowl game and he was heavy, I mean, it's just like you guys said, when you're dealing with NFL people, if you want them to take a chance on another one of your guys or believe you when you tell them, hey, Javon Kinlaw is the real freaking deal, you got to be honest.
Yeah.
It can't always all be cotton candy, unicorns, and rainbows.
I agree. Darren said that earlier, and he hit the nail on the head. I have no idea what the uproar over this was. I would want my head coach to be honest. He was honest, and this is not the first time ever that there was a NFL first-round talent who slipped a little bit for one reason or another, and it all worked out for Debo. It's just fine. He's okay. Yep. He's about to sign for a bunch of money. He's okay.
He's getting ready to be filthy rich. Getting ready to happen.
Just a matter of where he's going to live, but the bank account's going to be fine.
I mean, look, if I'm Kansas City, they lost Tyreek Hill. Man, that Debo guy, that'd be a pretty
intriguing, huh?
Pretty good toy for Pat Mahomes and that dude with the big brain, the big man with the big brain, Andy Reid.
Big man, big brain, big, the whole.
He knows how to dial up ball plays. He's no Marcus Satterfield.
Yeah, no. Well, no, I mean, Keith, nobody is. On that note, we will let you run, though. We can't thank you enough for your time, and I know it's another excellent week of Locked On The Gamecocks podcast stuff, and hopefully
I'm on spring break this week.
I'm
doing 2 shows. I'm doing one today. I'm doing my town hall tomorrow.
So we reeled you in from the beach. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
You put your cover up on and everything. That's wonderful. Well, we're always glad to have you.
Cool. I got baseball tonight. I think when I step out on the field, it'll be like 68 degrees.
Whoa, man, it's cooler than it is here. Good for you. Enjoy it while it lasts. It'll be gone next week and forever.
That's right. And Fire Mark Kingston. All right, guys.
See you, buddy. Have a great week. There you go, Keith Allsep, host and owner of the Locked On The Gamecocks podcast. We're 2 minutes past, but we did all right. No idea what we talked about today.
Lots of random stuff. Good stuff.
I'm telling you, we should have been, for the last 2 years, just doing shows and just picking out things in the background and getting the stories behind them.
And talking about Krispy Kreme.
Oh, yeah. I'd be so overweight if that was the case. All right. Well, we know we have JC tomorrow. Certainly looking forward to that. We've got some others we'll plug in later on in the week. I think Coach Holbrook's going to join us this week. Mike Morgan might be popping on with us maybe.
Hey.
So we look forward to that too. Thanks to Keith and Mike and Darren and all of you. Have a terrific and thirsty Tuesday afternoon. If you're in the Low Country, go to the Dog and Duck to quench that thirst. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show.